both in this life and in the life after death. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prithu Maharaj's sole aim in ruling his kingdom was to raise the citizens to the standard of God consciousness. Since there was a great assembly in the arena of sacrifice, there were different types of men present, but he was especially interested in speaking to those who were not atheists. It has already been explained in the previous verses that Prithu Maharaja advised the citizens to become Ahoksaja Diya, which means God conscious or Krishna conscious. And in this verse, he specifically presents the authority of Shastra, even though his father was a number one atheist who did not abide by the injunctions mentioned in the Vedic Shastras, who practically stopped all sacrificial performances, and who so disgusted the Brahmanas that they not only dethroned him, but cursed and killed him. Atheistic men do not believe in the existence of God, and thus they understand everything which is happening in our daily affairs to be due to physical arrangement and chance. Atheists believe in the atheistic Sankhya philosophy of the combination of Prakriti and Purusha. They believe only in matter and hold that matter, under certain conditions of amalgamation, gives rise to the living force, which then appears as Purusha, the enjoyer. Then, by a combination of matter and the living force, the many varieties of material manifestation come into existence. Nor do atheists believe in the injunctions of the Vedas. According to them, all the Vedic injunctions are simply theories that have no practical application in life. Taking all this into consideration, Prithu Maharaja suggested that theistic men will solidly reject the views of the atheists on the grounds that there cannot be many varieties of existence without the plan of a superior intelligence. Atheists very vaguely explain that these varieties of existence occur simply by chance, but the theists who believe in the injunction of the Vedas must reach out and must reach all their conclusions under the direction of the Vedas. Well, very good. In the Vishnu Purana, it is said that the entire Varnashrama institution is meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The rules and regulations set up for the execution of the duties of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, or Brahmacharis, Grihastas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis, are all meant to satisfy the Supreme Lord. At the present moment, although the so-called Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras have lost their original culture, they claim to be Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras by birthright. Yet they have rejected the proposition that such social and spiritual orders are especially meant for the worship of Lord Vishnu. The dangerous Mayavad theory set forth by Sankaracharya that God is impersonal does not tally with the injunctions of the Vedas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, therefore, described the Mayavadi philosophers as the greatest offenders against the personality of Godhead. According to the Vedic system, one who does not abide by the orders of the Vedas is called a Gnostica or atheist. When Lord Buddha preached his theory of nonviolence, he was obliged to deny the authority of the Vedas. And for this reason, he was considered by the followers of the Vedas to be a Gnostica. But although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very clearly enunciated that the followers of Lord Buddha's philosophy are Gnostics or atheists because of their denial of the authority of the Vedas, he considered the Sankarites who wanted to establish Vedic authority by trickery and who actually followed the Mayavada philosophy of Buddha's school to be more dangerous than the Buddhists themselves. The Sankarite philosophers' theory that we have to imagine a shape of God is more dangerous than denial of the existence of God. Notwithstanding all the philosophical theorizing by atheists or Mayavadis, the followers of Krishna consciousness rigidly live according to the injunctions given in Bhagavad Gita, which is accepted as the essence of all Vedic scripture. In Bhagavad Gita 18.46, it is said, Yata pravritir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manava. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. This indicates that the Supreme Personality of God is the original source of everything, as described in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadasya Yata. The Lord himself also confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, I am the origin of everything. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all emanations. And at the same time, as Paramatma, he is spread all over existence. The absolute truth is therefore the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and every living being is meant to satisfy the Supreme Godhead by performing his respective duty. Swakarmanatam abhyarcha. Maharaj Pritam wanted to introduce this formula amongst his citizens. The most important point in human civilization is that while one engages in different occupational duties, he must try to satisfy the Supreme Lord by the execution of such duties. That is the highest perfection of life. Svanustitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. By discharging one's prescribed duty, one can become very successful in life if he simply satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The vivid example is Arjuna, who was a Kshatriya. His duty was to fight, and by executing his prescribed duty, he satisfied the Supreme Lord and therefore became perfect. Everyone should follow this principle. The atheists who do not are condemned in Bhagavad Gita 16.19 by the following statement: Tan aham dvisata kruran samsaresu naradama. Naradama, yeah, no, Naradam, I'm sorry, Naradam, Naradaman, yes,
Radhama, yeah.
yeah. In this verse, it is clearly said that persons who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are the lowest of mankind and are mischievous, very mischievous, under the regulative principles of the Supreme. Such mischievous persons are thrown into the darkest region of material existence and are born of asuras or atheists. Birth after birth, such asuras go further down finally to animal forms like those of tigers or similar ferocious beasts. Thus, for millions of years, they have to remain in darkness without knowledge of Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Purushottama, or the best of all living entities. He is a person like all other living entities, but he is the leader or the best of all living beings. That is stated in the Vedas also. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. He is the chief of all eternals, the chief of all living entities, and he is complete and full. He has no need to derive benefit by interfering with the affairs of other living entities. But because he is the maintainer of all, he has the right to bring them to the proper standards so that all living entities may become happy. A father wants all of his children to become happy under his direction. Similarly, God or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has the right to see that all living entities are happy. There is no possibility of becoming happy within this material world. The Father and the Sons are eternal. But if a living entity does not come to the platform of his eternal life of bliss and knowledge, there is no question of happiness. Although Purushottama, the best of all living entities, has no benefit to derive from the common living entities, he does have the right to discriminate between their right and wrong ways. The right way is the path of activities meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as we have already discussed. Swanustitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshana. A living entity may engage in any occupational duty, but if he wants to have perfection in his duties, he must satisfy the Supreme Lord. As such, one who pleases him, meaning God, gets better facilities for living, but one who displeases him gets involved in undesirable situations. It is therefore concluded that there are two kinds of duties: mundane duty and duty performed for the sake of yajna or sacrifice, yajnartha, karma. Any karma activity one performs which is not for the purpose of yajna is a cause of bondage. Yajnartat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhana. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Karma bandhana, or the bondage of karma, is administered under the regulations of the stringent laws of material nature. Material existence is a struggle to conquer the impediments put forth by the material nature. The asuras are always fighting to overcome these impediments. And by the illusory power of material nature, the foolish living entities work very hard within this material world and take this to be happiness. This is called Maya. In that hard struggle for existence, they deny the existence of the Supreme Authority, Purushottama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In order to regulate the activities of the living entities, God has given us codes, just as a king gives codes of law in a state, and whoever breaks the law is punished. Similarly, the Lord has given the infallible knowledge of the Vedas, which are not contaminated by the four defects of human beings, namely the tendency to commit mistakes, to be illusion, to cheat, and to have imperfect senses. If we do not take direction from the Vedas, but act whimsically according to our own choice, we are sure to be punished by the laws of the Lord, who offers different types of bodies in the 8,400,000 species of forms. Material existence, or the sense gratification process, is conducted according to the type of body we are given by Prakriti, or material nature. As such, there must be division of pious and impious activities, punya and papa. In Bhagavad Gita 7.28, it is clearly stated, Yesam twantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanirmukta bhajanti mantritavrataha. One who has completely surpassed the resultant activities of the impious path of life. This is possible only when one engages exclusively in pious activities, can understand his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one engages in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This life of engaging always in the loving service of the Lord is called ahoksaja diya, or a life of Krishna consciousness with which King Prithu meant his citizens to follow. The different varieties of life and of material existence do not come about by chance and necessity. They are different arrangements made by the Supreme Lord in terms of the pious and impious activities of living entities. By performing pious activities, one can take birth in a good family, in a good nation. One can get a beautiful body or can become very well educated or very rich. We see, therefore, that in different places and in different planets, there are different standards of life, bodily features, and educational statuses, all awarded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to pious or impious activities. Varieties of life, therefore, develop not by chance, but by pre-arrangement. There is a plan which is already outlined in the Vedic knowledge. One has to take advantage of this knowledge and mold his life in such a way that at the end, especially in the human form of life, he may go back home, back to Godhead, by practicing Krishna consciousness. The theory of chance can best be explained in the Vedic literature by the words ajnata sukriti, which refer to pious activities performed without the actor's knowledge. But these are also planned. For example, Krishna comes like an ordinary human being. He comes as a devotee, like Lord Chaitanya, or he sends his representative, the spiritual master or pure devotee. This is also the planned activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They come to canvass and educate, and thus a person in the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord gets a chance to mix with them, talk with them, and take lessons from them. And somehow or other, if a conditioned soul surrenders to such personalities, and by intimate association with them, chances to become Krishna conscious, he is saved from the material conditions of life. Krishna therefore instructs, Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam saranam praja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshishami mahasucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 1866. The word sarva papebhya means from all sinful reactions. From all sinful activities. A person who surrenders unto him by utilizing the chance to associate with the pure devotee, spiritual master, or other authorized incarnations of Godhead, like Prithu Maharaja, is saved by Krishna. Then his life becomes successful. Haribol. Well, if you want to be happy, you have to follow what's being said in this purport and verse. Yesam twantikatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta ajantiman dhritavataha. One who has completely surpassed the resultant activities of the impious path of life. This is possible only when one engages exclusively in pious activities, can understand his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one engages in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This life of engaging always in the loving service of the Lord is called ahoksuja, or a life of Krishna consciousness, which King Prithu meant his citizens to follow. So that's our real takeaway today. And then Prabhupada says, there is a plan which is already outlined in the Vedic knowledge. So the atheists, they say there's no plan. Everything is happening haphazardly by nature. And that's not true. There is a plan which is already outlined in the Vedic knowledge. One has to take advantage of this knowledge and mold his life in such a way that at the end, especially in the human form of life, he may go back home, back to Godhead by practicing Krishna consciousness. Well, what is the plan? Krishna's plan is that all living entities should come back to him. We were all originally with Krishna, but due to limited free will, we voluntarily walked away from Krishna due to ignorance. Now we have a chance, by the mercy of Krishna, to come back to him by engaging in devotional service to the Lord. So this is the real plan of the Lord, to bring everyone back from their ignorance and their selfishness and their sense gratification back to the path of Krishna consciousness. Why? Because Krishna is the father of all living entities. So he doesn't like to see his living entities in Maya. He wants them to give up the illusory, let's say, activities of Maya and engage again in devotional service. So the plan of the Lord is to save all living entities and bring them back to Godhead, or going back to the spiritual world. So the point here is there is a plan which is already outlined in the Vedic knowledge. One has to take advantage of this knowledge and mold his life in such a way that at the end, especially in the human form of life, he may go back home, back to Godhead, by practicing Krishna consciousness. Well, that's the plan. By practicing Krishna consciousness, one can go back to Godhead. The theory of chance can best be explained in the Vedic literature by the words agnata, sukriti, which refer to pious activities performed without the actor's knowledge. But these are also planned. For example, Krishna comes like an ordinary human being. He comes as a devotee, like Lord Chaitanya, or he sends as a representative the spiritual master or pure devotee. This is also planned activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They come to canvas and educate, and thus a person in the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord gets a chance to mix with them, talk with them, and take lessons from them. And somehow or other, if a conditioned soul surrenders to such personalities and by intimate association with them, chances to become Krishna conscious, he is saved from the material conditions of life. Krishna therefore instructs, Sarvadharmam Parityajya Mahamekam Saranam Braja Hantam Sarvapapyabhyo Mokshi Shami Malaschaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 1866. The word sarvapapebhya means from all sinful activities. A person who surrenders unto him by utilizing the chance to associate with the pure devotee, spiritual master, or other authorized incarnations of Godhead like Pritha Maharaj, is saved by Krishna. Then his life becomes successful. Okay, so without the association of bona fide devotee or devotees, it is very difficult, or let's say impossible, to become a devotee. One has to have the association of a pure devotee or devotees. And that's why it says that uh, one should abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto Krishna. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. That's Krishna's promise. And that's his, uh, let's say, absolute uh, desire that everyone should become free from sinful reaction and surrender to the Lord. The word sarva papebhya means from all sinful activities. A person who surrenders unto him, meaning Krishna, by utilizing the chance to associate with the pure devotee, spiritual master, or other authorized incarnations of Godhead like Pritha Maharaj, is saved by Krishna. Then his life becomes successful. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. So this verse, Bhagavad Gita 1866, Sarvadharmam Prityaja Mamekam Saranam Braja Aham Tvam Sarvapapibhyo Mokshishyami Mahasuchaha, is very, very important. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, Krishna says. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 1866. So this should be our takeaway today and forever. Sarvadharmam Parityaja Mamikam Saranam Braja Am Tvam Sarvapapibhyo Mokshishyami Mahasuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, Krishna says. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Okay, so in the material world, there are many sinful activities. So we don't make any spiritual advancement by engaging in sinful activities. So therefore, Krishna is guaranteeing his devotee. He says, Sarvadharmam Parityaja Mamekam Saranam Braja Aham Tvam Sarvapapibhyo Mokshishyami Mahasuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 1866. So you can say that Bhagavad Gita 1866, 18th chapter, 66 verse, is one of the most important verses in the whole Vedic literature. A person who actually does surrender unto Krishna by utilizing the chance to associate with a pure devotee or spiritual master or other authorized incarnations of Godhead, like Pritha Maharaj, is saved by Krishna. Then his life becomes successful. So we should seek out the association of a pure devotee and follow in his footsteps. Don't try and emulate him, but follow in his footsteps. And thus we can become purified of all desires for sense gratification and associate with a pure devotee or spiritual master and then be saved by Krishna. Then his life becomes successful. Haribol. So this is the formula for being successful: association with a genuine devotee and surrendering unto the devotee and engaging in pure devotional service. That should be our goal in life. Then life becomes successful. If you want to be successful, okay, so this is the what you would call the the map of devotional service that leads to success and happiness in life. Texts 28 and 29. This is confirmed not only by the evidence of the Vedas, but also by personal behavior of great personalities like Manu, Uttanapada, Dhruva, Priyavrata, and my grandfather, Anga, as well as by many other great personalities and ordinary living entities, exemplified by Maharaj Prahlada and Bali, all of whom are theists, believing in the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who carries a club. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Narottam Dasa Thakura states that one has to ascertain the right path for his activities by following in the footsteps of great saintly persons and books of knowledge under the guidance of a spiritual master. Sadhashastra Guru Vaikya. A saintly person is one who follows the Vedic injunctions, which are the orders of the Supreme Personality of God. The word guru refers to one who gives proper direction under the authority of the Vedic injunctions, and according to the examples of the lives of great personalities. The best way to mold one's life is to follow the footsteps of authorized personalities, like those mentioned herein by Pritha Maharaj, beginning with Swayambhuva Manu. The safest path in life is to follow such great personalities, especially those mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Mahajans, or great personalities, are Brahma, Lord Shiva, Narada Muni, Manu, the Kumaras, Prahlada Maharaja, Bali Maharaja, Yamaraja, Bhisma, Janaka, Sukadeva Goswami, and Kapila Muni. So we should choose to follow the Mahajans, or great personalities, and there's 12 of them, if we want to be on the safest path in life that leads back to the spiritual world. That should be our culture, to follow the great devotees like Brahma, Lord Shiva, Narada Muni, Manu, the Kumaras, Prahlada Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, Yamaraja, Bhisma, Janaka, Sukadeva Goswami, and Kapila Muni. Okay, text 30. Although abominable persons like my father, Vena, the grandson of death personified, are bewildered on the path of religion, all the great personalities like those mentioned agree that in this world, the only bestower of benedictions of religion, economic development, sense gratification, liberation, or elevation to the heavenly planets is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. King Vena, the father of Pritha Maharaj, was condemned by the Brahmanas and saintly persons because of his denying the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and rejecting the method of satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead by performance of Vedic sacrifice. In other words, he was an atheist who did not believe in the existence of God and who consequently stopped all Vedic ritualistic ceremonies in his kingdom. Pritha Maharaja considered King Vena's character abominable because Vena was foolish regarding the execution of religious performances. Atheists are of the opinion that there is no need to accept the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be successful in religion, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. According to them, Dharma, or religious principles, are meant to establish an imaginary God to encourage one to become moral, honest, and just so that the social orders may be maintained in peace and tranquility. Furthermore, they say that actually there is no need to accept God for this purpose. For if one follows the principles of morality and honesty, that is sufficient. Similarly, if one makes the nice plans and works very hard for economic development, automatically the result of economic development will come. This is the atheistic point of view. Similarly, sense gratification also does not depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For if one earns enough money by any process, one will have sufficient opportunity for sense gratification. These are all Mayavadi philosophies, right? It's not what Krishna, not what we believe. Insofar as liberation is concerned, they say that there is no need to talk of liberation because after death, everything is finished. Pritha Maharaj, however, did not accept the authority of such atheists, headed by his father, who was the grandson of death personified. Generally, a daughter inherits the qualities of her father, and a son gets the qualities of his mother. Thus, Mrityu's daughter, Sunita, got all the qualities of her father, and Vena inherited the qualities of his mother. A person who is always subjected to the rules and regulations of repeated birth and death cannot accommodate anything beyond materialistic ideas. Since King Vena was such a man, he did not believe in the existence of God. Modern civilization agrees with the principles of King Vena, but factually, if we scrutinizingly study all the conditions of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, we must accept the principles of the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Vedic literature, religion consists only of the codes of law given by God. Yeah, so I mean, the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, the atheists, they don't accept any of this. They think that everything is happening haphazardly. There's no plan of the material world, and that one can make any plan that a person wants, and that is good enough. So it's complete nonsense. If one does not accept the authority of the Supreme Godhead in matters of religion and morality, one must explain why two persons of the same moral standard achieve different results. It is generally found that even if two men have the same moral standards of ethics, honesty, and morality, their positions are still not the same. Similarly, in economic development, it is seen that if two men work very hard day and night, still the results are not the same. One person may enjoy great opulence without even working, whereas another person, although working very hard, does not even get two sufficient meals a day. Similarly, in the matter of sense gratification, sometimes one who has sufficient food is still not happy in his family affairs, or sometimes is not even married. Whereas another person, even though not economically well off, has the greatest opportunity for sense gratification. Even an animal like a hog or a dog may have greater opportunities for sense gratification than a human being. Aside from liberation, even if we consider only the preliminary necessities of life, dharma, artha, and kama, religion, economic development, and sense gratification, we will see that they are not the same for everyone. Therefore, it must be accepted there is someone who determines the different standards. In conclusion, not only for liberation must one depend on the Lord, but even for ordinary necessity in this material world. Prita Maharaja therefore indicated that in spite of having rich parents, children are sometimes not happy. Similarly, in spite of valuable medicine administered by a competent physician, sometimes the patient dies. Or in spite of having a big safe boat, sometimes a man drowns. We may thus struggle to counteract impediments offered by material nature, but our attempts cannot be successful unless we are favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, now that is extremely profound statement. We should pay special attention to this. Uh, we should always depend on Krishna, even for ordinary necessities in the material world. So, and that's why Prita Maharaj indicated that in spite of having rich parents, children are sometimes not happy. Similarly, in spite of valuable medicine administered by a competent physician, sometimes a patient dies. Or in spite of having a big, safe boat, sometimes a man drowns. We may thus struggle to counteract impediments offered by material nature, but our attempts cannot be successful unless we are favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, how can you be favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead? You have to engage in devotional service without any material motive. The only motive is to please the Lord by your activities. Then you will be protected by the mercy of the Lord. Now, who actually does that? Very few people. Text 31. By the inclination to serve the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, suffering humanity can immediately cleanse the dirt which has accumulated in their minds during innumerable births. Like the Ganges water which emanates from the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord, such a process immediately cleanses the mind, and thus spiritual or Krishna consciousness gradually increases. Well, yeah, the Ganges River, which is flowing very, let's say, nicely throughout the different parts of India, is pure. It's not slowly progressing. It has a strong current. That means that the waters of the Ganges are pure. Stagnant, a slow river is contaminated, but a fast moving river is pure. So, and in the same way, it says here, like the Ganges water, which emanates from the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. Such a process immediately cleanses the mind, and thus spiritual or Krishna consciousness gradually increases. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In India, one can actually see that a person who takes a bath in the Ganges waters daily is almost free from all kinds of diseases. A very respectable Brahmana in Calcutta never took a doctor's medicine, even though he sometimes felt sick. He would not accept medicine from the physician, but would simply drink Ganges water, and he was always cured within a very short time. The glories of Ganges water are known to Indians and to ourselves also. The river Ganges flows by Calcutta. Sometimes within the water, there are many stools and other dirty things which are washed away from the neighboring mills and factories. But still, thousands of men take baths in the Ganges water, and they are very healthy as well as spiritually inclined. That is the effect of Ganges water. The Ganges is glorified because it emanates from the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, if one takes to the service of the lotus feet of the Lord or takes to Krishna consciousness, he is immediately cleansed of the many dirty things which have accumulated in his innumerable births. I remember Prabhupada one time, he asked a devotee to go to the Ganga, I think the Ganga or the Yamuna river, and get take his uh, take his what do you call that? The anyway, to go and fetch water. But he said, go to the middle of the river and get the fast moving water because that water is pure. No, don't get water from
Still water.
huh?
Still water.
Yeah, there's still water on the like the edges of the river.
Hmm.
Uh, and then uh, why? Because the fast running water is always going to be pure, and stagnant water will always be impure. So that is, so it says that uh, the river Ganges flows by Calcutta. Sometimes within the water, there are many stools and other dirty things which are washed away from the neighboring mills and factories. But still, thousands of men take baths in the Ganges water, and they are very healthy as well as spiritually inclined. That is the effect of Ganges water. The Ganges is glorified because it emanates from the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, if one takes to the service of the lotus feet of the Lord or takes to Krishna consciousness, he is immediately cleansed of the many dirty things which have accumulated in his innumerable births. We have seen that in spite of the very black record of their past lives, persons who take the Krishna consciousness become perfectly cleansed of all dirty things and make spiritual progress very swift. Therefore, Prita Maharaja advises that without the benediction of the Supreme Lord, one cannot make advancement, either in so-called morality, economic development, or sense gratification. One should, therefore, take to the service of the Lord or Krishna consciousness, and thus very soon become a perfect man, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Shripam Bhavati Dharmatya Satvach Chantim Nigachati. Being a responsible king, Prithu Maharaj recommends that everyone take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus be immediately purified. Lord Sri Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that simply by surrendering unto him, one is immediately relieved of all sinful reactions. As Krishna takes away all the sinful actions of a person immediately upon his surrender unto him, similarly, the external manifestation of Krishna, the represented immediate as Krishna takes away all sinful reactions of a person immediately upon his surrender unto him, similarly, the external manifestation of Krishna, the representative Krishna, will act as the mercy of the Supreme Personality Godhead, meaning the devotee, takes all the resultant actions of the sinful life of the disciple immediately after the disciple's initiation. Well, that is the chance, let's say that's the risk of being a initiating guru. What happened? What is taking place? It says that the representative of Krishna, who acts as the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, takes all the resultant actions of the sinful life of the disciple immediately after the disciple's initiation. Thus, if the disciple follows the principles instructed by the spiritual master, he remains purified and is not contaminated by the material infection. On the other hand, if the disciple does not remain purified and not contaminated by material and contaminated by material infection, there is disaster for the so-called guru. He will be overwhelmed by all the sinful activities of the disciple, and he will not be able to function as a spiritual master. So, therefore, it says, as Krishna takes away all sinful reactions of a person immediately upon his surrender unto him, similarly, the external manifestation of Krishna, the representative Krishna, meaning Krishna, the Guru, who acts as the mercy of the Supreme Personality Godhead, takes all the resultant actions of the sinful life of the disciple immediately after the disciple's initiation. Thus, if the disciple follows the principles instructed by the spiritual master, he remains purified and is not contaminated by the material infection. Well, both the spiritual master and the disciple have to follow strictly the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, if the guru does not and the disciple does not, they will both be crushed by the effect of sinful activities. So this Krishna consciousness process is dangerous if one doesn't follow it seriously, and one can be crushed by sensual activities. However, if one strictly follows, then one not only is free to act in Krishna consciousness without any doubt or any illusion, but also protected by the mercy of the Lord. Okay, so this, what you would call spiritual master business, is something very serious. And if one is not serious, they'll be crushed by an avalanche of sinful reactions of their disciples. Thus, if the disciple follows the principles instructed by the spiritual master, he remains purified and is not contaminated by material infection. Okay, so we should follow the instructions of the spiritual master. And the spiritual master has to follow the instructions of his spiritual master. That is the process of Krishna consciousness. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore stated that the spiritual master who plays the part of Krishna's representative has to consume all the sinful reactions of his disciple. Sometimes the spiritual master takes the risk of being overwhelmed by the sinful reactions of the disciples and undergoes a sort of tribulation due to their acceptance, due to the fact that they've been accepted by the spiritual master. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised that one not accept many disciples. Yeah, if you accept hundreds and thousands of disciples, you could be overwhelmed by their sinful reactions. So it's better not to take many disciples. Okay. That is very good advice. Sometimes the spiritual master takes the risk of being overwhelmed by the sinful reactions of the disciples and undergoes a sort of tribulation due to their acceptance. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised that one not accept many disciples. There it is. Very important advice for devotees who want to be gurus. Okay, so I think we'll stop there because that is a very important point. Sometimes a spiritual master takes the risk of being overwhelmed by the sinful reactions of the disciples and undergoes a sort of tribulation, meaning problem, due to their acceptance, having accepted an unholy disciple. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised that one not accept many disciples. Yeah, if you have, let's say, 5,000 disciples, first of all, you can't even remember all the names of your disciples. And secondly, even if there's only one of those 5,000 is engaged in sinful activities, you're going to get crushed by the reactions. You, meaning the guru, can be crushed by the sinful activities of even one disciple. Imagine if you have 1,000 disciples. So we have to be very, very careful if we become a guru, because it's better not to take many disciples so that you can spend time with the disciples and instructing them how to be very serious in Krishna consciousness. If you have, let's say, 10,000 disciples, how can you see if they're all following? You can't. You don't know what they're doing. Therefore, it's very important to follow this advice right now of Lord Chaitanya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised that one not accept many disciples. Haribol. Anyone who does accept a lot of disciples, well, they're taking a big risk. There was one guru, he was walking somewhere in the and he saw a young devotee walking toward him. So he stopped the devotee and said, do you want to be initiated? And the devotee said, Maharaj, you already initiated me 2 years ago. He said, I'm sorry. You see, that's what happens when you have a lot of devotees, a lot of disciples. You don't know all your disciples. You want to know all your disciples, but you have so many, you can't remember them all, right? So that's not very good. It's better to have fewer disciples, but take care of those disciples and instruct them very nicely. Okay, so I think we're finished for today. So yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I had a question.
Okay, go right ahead, Mataji.
And pranams for the beautiful class as always, Maharaj. Maharaj, just one question. Where we were reading about atheists, right? Where they said that how they believe that just being a good person, doing good things, economic development, all of that is good. Like I have friends who say that, and of course, I'll talk about Krishna consciousness. I'll talk about my practice. But what is like I mean, I'm not looking for a way to preach to them, but what is a response, I guess, that where you have that fine balance where you're not committing one of those sins of like propagating the holy name to a non-believer, but at the same time you're kind of telling them that economic development and being a good person is not the be all and end all, devotional service is key. Like, how do you respond to that when atheists say that?
Well, uh, your example of being an ideal devotee is very important.
I see.
So people see that you're actually very happy, you're very clean, and you have no, sinful proclivities,
Right,
and you're always engaged in devotional service, and you're happy.
right.
That's very important. If you're not happy, then people say, "Well, look, this person is following Krishna consciousness, and they're not happy. That means I'm not going to follow Krishna consciousness."
Yeah,
So you have to actually be a happy person because you're following Krishna consciousness, and you are therefore in a very good position to help many other people become Krishna conscious. But if you're not happy, Prabhupada one time was preaching and he said, if you're following Krishna consciousness, you must be happy. So there was one devotee in the audience and he said to Prabhupada, but I am not happy. So Prabhupada said, no, you must be happy. And then again, the devotee said, but I'm not happy. Prabhupada said, therefore, you're not following correctly.
okay.
So if someone does follow Krishna consciousness properly, they'll be happy. And that's why I always say, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. If you chant nicely every day, you will be happy. And you will not have any major problems. And if there are major problems, you'll be able to weather them. You'll be able to deal with them and not be destroyed. So we should take up chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. As the panacea for all difficult situations. Panacea means it's a medicine that heals all sicknesses. Yes, any other questions?
Yes, Haribol Maharaj. I had a question. So you mentioned that the Ganges is like a flowing water, so like that's why it's that has it's pure and people can take bathe in it and all that. So are
Even
there
even though the industries in India put all their junk, you know, uh, what do you call it? The junk waste into the Ganges. People pass stool in the Ganges and so forth. There was
right?
one man who was very pious, and whenever he went to the Holy Dham, he always had a bag with him. And in that bag, he would pass stool and urine so that his stool and urine never touched the ground in the holy places. Yeah.
So So
Yes, go ahead.
so this Uber driver in Bangalore told me like the Kaveri water is like people try to buy houses in Bangalore in places where they get the Kaveri water in their water supply, and that's
Yes.
supposed to be very pure. So is that applied to other rivers like Kaveri, or is it only
Yeah,
Ganges?
yeah. They're all holy rivers. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because what is the source of that river? You have to look at that. And usually they are tributaries of the Ganges. Why don't you look that up on the internet? What are the tributary rivers of the Ganges?
Okay.
They're usually starting from the mountains.
Okay. Kaveri is in the south, though. I don't know
Yeah,
how they would.
that one is not probably, but it has its own
Mm.
significance.
We have to see where it's originating from. Anyway, we know for sure that the Ganges is a spiritual river, and it flows through most of India. So,
Yeah, it's the Kaveri is apparently from the Brahmagiri range in the western Ghats of Karnataka. Um,
okay.
so I'm not sure what. Maybe that's also a holy significance.
Well,
Located in the Coorg district in Karnataka.
okay. Is that mountainous areas?
Yeah, it looks like Western Ghats. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's considered the Ganges of South.
So then it's a spiritual or pure water. It's coming from mountains.
Yeah. Thanks.
Haribo.
Yeah, it's believed that the river sprang from the Kamandalu, or the water pot of sage Agastya, due to a divine plan involving goddess Parvati.
Okay, so it has a spiritual, emanation.
Mhm.
So you can take bath in that river and be purified. Okay, well, thank you very much, my dear devotees.
Hare Krishna. Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, my son has one question. Yeah.
Oh, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Pranam. I had one question regarding chanting. How are we supposed to, when we're chanting, what are we supposed to be focusing on or concentrating when sitting down and chanting? Because sometimes my eyes go everywhere and I feel that it's not concentrating when I'm chanting.
You're not chanting out loud.
Okay.
If you chant out loud,
Hmm.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Okay.
Hare. Your mind will not wander here and there. But if you chant, then your mind will wander.
All right. Yes.
But if you chant out loud, you can't. Your mind has to follow the chanting. So whenever you feel as if your mind is wandering away, just up the decibels of your chanting.
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. By the way, you will be helping a lot of other people to hear the holy name because of your loud chanting. Of course, if you're in a bus and you chant really loudly, some people won't like it. But in general, you're not always on a bus. In general, you should chant loudly enough that you can hear and people not too far away from you can hear also. But when you feel as if your mind is wandering here and there, you should chant louder to to stop your mind from wandering. Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Okay, so I think we'll stop right there on how to stop a wandering mind while chanting. Just increase the decibels. Okay, so we'll start from Canto 4, Chapter 21, Text 31. We'll read that again because it's all about the Ganges River tomorrow. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.